The only thing worse than starting something and failing is not starting something. Seth Godin. DZ Tribe, Josh Thomas, glad to have you. To make sure you don't miss another episode, want to make sure that you go and follow and subscribe on Apple and or Spotify. Also, if you're looking to better understand how you get stuff done, head on over to dozonedna.com and take our personality profile assessment built specifically for busy entrepreneurs. It'll show you how to build your world around you for optimal performance. Once again, that's dozonedna.com. Today's guest is Tim Redmond. Tim is CEO of Redmond Growth Initiatives, an organization designed to help you grow your profits, grow your business, and grow your life through Tim's innovative coaching process. With his extensive business experience, Tim and his team will bring you through a process to significantly develop your leadership, planning, decision-making, and team-building skills. Tim, welcome to the Do Zone. Say hello to the tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Yeah. In a word, expand your productivity by narrowing your focus. Expand your productivity by narrowing your focus. We try to do too many things at one time, and I get more done. And it's not just this bizarre thought that nobody's ever heard about, but we get so busy getting busy and we're not as focused. And so in the same way with marketing, you actually expand your reach by narrowing your focus. Same way with productivity.
We get so busy getting busy, we're not as focused. You know, it's interesting. I have a bit of a controversial opinion where I feel like busy is a 4-letter word. That
it's a really very apropos way of referring to busy.
Yeah. And in fact, what you really need to replace the word busy with whenever you say busy is unfocused. You're not busy. You're unfocused. Busy is kind of like a euphemism. It's an enabling term.
Yeah.
That's you're saying you're speaking, you're singing my song, Tim. You're singing my song.
Well, busy is what us ADD people like to use as a way of complimenting our weakness. So let's have an honest conversation with ourselves when we look in the mirror. So
that's right. And so talk to me a little bit about when you were saying expand your productivity by narrowing your focus. You mentioned that one of the best ways to expand your marketing is to narrow your niche. And so I agree with both of the things that you said, but nobody's ever made that comparison before. So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Well, the most important things that are going to make you the most money or give you the most influence or provide you the biggest impact, these are all things we're working for with, when you're thinking about productivity, for what purpose? Well, to make an impact, to have more influence, to make more money, to expand your company and get more clients or whatever, however you measure that. So we work on so many different things and we forget about this 80-20 principle is based on this Italian architect, but we call it the Pareto Principle, but it's that the 20% of our activity actually produces 80% of the results we get. So when we really focus on, we slow down and we say no to most things and yes to a very few things, we're grabbing the lever that really moves things in our lives, the things that we want: greater influence, greater impact, higher profits. And so that's why I like to refer to as that.
I love it. I was introduced to the Pareto Principle. I spent a long weekend with Richard Koch. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Richard Koch was the author of a book about finance called the 80-20 Principle, which was basically taking the Pareto Principle and applying it to finance, to business, to all kinds of different things. And so it was fascinating to me. And if you really dig into the 80-20 principle, it applies in all of life. It applies to literally everything that you do, including nature. And it basically says, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts, and 20% of your efforts are going to produce 80% of your results. And it goes both ways. 20% of the birds in the world are carnivores. And, it's like, it goes as deep as you can possibly go. And when you start to realize that, 4/5 of the stuff that you do in the day is completely useless.
Yes. How painful you make it. Do people come here to watch you or to listen to you just to get thumped on by you? Now, here's what's really interesting about the Pareto Principle, because I've done this. Like in the first year of when I work with people, we'll focus on the 20%, and we try to push that into from 20% of their time to 80% of their time. But when you think about a second generation, the second year when I work with people, we look at the 20% they identified, and the next generation of the 80-20 is you take a look at 20% of that 20%, which is 4%.
That's right.
And then you take 80% left over of the 80%. So there's only 4% of your activity that produces 64% of your productivity. That's folding the paper in half again, and you do it again, you get down to 1%, and boom, then half your results are with 1% of what you work. So that's a third generation. So it really is, it's scientifically, it's a scattergram, so it may not be exactly that, but it's a good guideline, guardrail to run your life by, and get from the first generation to the second generation to the third generation, where you really focus on that 1% that really does make a difference. And I'm working with a guy, honest to God, I'm working with a guy. It's construction companies in Southern California, and every now and then I go to that country to visit. They don't require a visa, but anyway, that's my Oklahoma redneck humor. Okay, so I'll stay with a story here. But he was at $10 million, and Josh, now he's north of 120 million, and we're working on 10xing his wealth through using what he's skillful at, but we're redirecting that. And it really is that we're in that 1%, and that 1%'s gone way beyond 50%. The 1% is really going to is setting up to create 80% of his wealth being created. So it really is a powerful concept.
Yeah. And to really land this, to bring this home so that we can completely understand what it has to do with time and productivity. We were mentioning, hey, like 4/5 of our day is irrelevant. But if we follow that, if we really follow that, and we say, okay, let's say that we have 8 hours of productive time in the day.
Right.
And if we take the 20% of the 20% of that, do you know how much time that is, Tim?
It's
20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the length of this podcast. It's the length of a sales call that produces all of your income for the day. It is the length that it takes for you to come up with that idea and ask somebody to look into it. That's the 20 minutes. You can just go and like sit by the lake and drink beers the rest of the day. As long as you get that 20 minutes, that's what matters.
Super focused. Exactly. Yeah. It's really, really powerful. The reality is that we're largely distracted and unfocused. And when we are focused and we get into that peak zone, there's some pretty massive stuff that begins to happen. So
that's right. Around here, we call it the do zone. And
the do zone.
The do zone, that's right. And the do zone has to do with getting things done. And the rule of the do zone, and it has to be something current and relevant. It has to be measurable and immediately achievable. And then it needs to be objectively observable and checkable by a third party. And as long as you're checking off all of those boxes, you're in the do zone. And the idea here is we want to maximize the amount of time that we spend in the do zone. And we want to minimize the amount of time that we think we are taking action, but we're not actually doing anything. And there's a really great graphic. If you can go on the internet, anybody can do this. Go on the internet and Google James Clear, motion versus action. And he has an article about this. It's in his book, Atomic Habits. I've got it on my shelf right here.
Oh, that's a phenomenal book.
And he talks about the concept of motion versus action. And motion is we're getting ready, we're preparing, we're learning, we're thinking, we're doing all of these things. But the point that James makes is motion does not create results. Only action creates results. And so you can spend 7 hours and 40 minutes a day in motion if you want. As long as those 20 minutes happen, that's your 20% of the 20%. And you still got your production for the day. But that time has to happen. Most of us don't take that time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's almost frightening. Yeah, that's
it's frightening. Yeah, tell me more.
Well, and here's, that's where I really embrace another concept of just power planning, which is, my power planning system is very simple. I've got a to-do list, basically in Excel, and then I've got my, it's a to-do list, and I got my calendar open, and then I'm going through all the inputs of emails, texts, and I've got everything open, and I go through and I clean everything out, and I put it either on my calendar or on my to-do list, and then I print those two things out. And I don't want to electronically interact with my to-do list until the end of the day or the next morning, but I actually carry those things around and note what gets done and add in what needs to be added, or the follow-up call to this, or delegation to that person. And, following the 4 Ds. Do I delete it? Do I delegate it? Do I delay it, or do I do it? And with that, you really get on top of your day. And so it's kind of like sharpening the axe before you chop down the tree. Just spend more time doing that, and the tree will go down faster. And so it's tied into really getting focused with seeing your day, right. Creating your day before you begin to live it.
That's right. Yeah. Sharpening the axe is important. Yeah. And so let's do this. How about we get into the do zone diagnostic? I'd love to see how that noggin works of yours. How do you feel? Ready?
Just lay it on me here. I'm not sure what that is, but just lay it on me. Let's take it on.
That's right. It's mostly painless. It's once the lobotomy starts, you don't really feel anything. Fine. Okay. So just a series of 5 quick questions I ask every guest. Just rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. Number 1, what's one thing that you do that keeps you focused on your goals?
This is power planning. I just I go through a process. I have a pattern of questions I ask that allows me to touch everything in my life that I want to touch. And I think about that, and I put that, I've scheduled that priority into my tracking system.
Excellent. And how do you get back on track, Tim, when you lose that focus?
Well, sometimes you just have to stop. I've gone through many days without doing that, and I'm just running through the day, I remember. And I've got a hilarious story, but maybe another time. But it's just becoming self-aware. Am I on track with what's most important to me? Is a really, really powerful question. I'm sure you brought it up in this podcast before. But what is the highest and best use of what I'm doing right now? what's my highest and best use? And little things lead to big things. And so what little things am I focused on that's going to lead to the right big things? And so just by becoming self-aware and pulling back, and sometimes I just breathe slowly. Sometimes I'll walk around the office and just get another perspective. I talk about leadership a lot. The leadership is all about improving your looks. It's not necessarily how you look in the mirror, but how you look at what you're looking at. So, I've got to refocus and relook at what I'm looking at with what's most important for me to get done that day.
Gotcha. And who is your support group, and how do they keep you accountable?
Well, I'm the visionary. I follow a lot of the traction, Gino Wickman stuff. I'm the visionary. I got an integrator, and that's actually my son, who is now trained to pretty much run our coaching program. We've got about 150 businesses we coach throughout the US and Canada. And we're growing actually pretty quick on top of that. But he's running that. But we meet twice a week. As a matter of fact, I just got out of the meeting right before this interview, this podcast, where we go over, what's really most important. And we're launching a new sales funnel. And what we haven't done is we haven't really nailed down the details of the follow-ups and the automations within our CRM. And so I'm like, okay, we're not going to take off on that until we get that nailed down. So that was the focus of our conversation. So he is a huge source for that. I go around and I ask my staff, at least one staff person once a week, at least, what stupid thing are we doing that we need to stop?
That's a great question.
What are we not doing that it's stupid that we're not doing right now? And the staff is really quite open. It's a safe environment, and fairly safe environment. And they understand that the sound of progress is the clashing of ideas, and even it can get emotional, but hang in there with each other. And so I'm asking for that. I'm married to an amazing accountability partner, and she gives me free advice, even before I ask sometimes, especially on my driving.
Right. There you
So,
go. Awesome.
But no, we have a great marriage with my wife, Sandy, and we talk openly about where we're going and what's all about. We do a lot of laughing, and we were out, at the fire pit early this morning, a little bit chilly, but drinking our coffee with the fire on and just chatting through and having fun. But she keeps me accountable. So the
Great.
people I love the most, I give them freedom to hold me accountable in
Nice.
whatever way that they want. So
Yeah. Awesome. And Tim, how do you approach a difficult project that you're not sure how to complete?
Well, I like to borrow this phrase that's made it real popular from Dan Sullivan in his book, Who Not How. And so if I'm not sure on the how, I'm thinking about who I need to get involved in this project to help push it through. There's somebody I don't have to do near as much thinking, and it may cost me a little bit of money, but it's going to save me a lot of time, and the level of output's going to be a lot better. So, for instance, we're a coaching company, but right now we've got 3 coaching companies that we're paying to help us out in different aspects of our business. I take my own medicine.
Got it.
You think that's helpful to people, these responses?
I think they're great. Yeah, I think it's great. I love that book. In fact, I don't have that one on my shelf right now, but it's on a different shelf, and I reference it quite a bit. The last question here, Tim, what's the number one pro tip that you would give to someone looking to get more stuff done in less time?
I would maybe this is a challenge to the very question. I would phrase it, what's the most important stuff I need to get done not measuring my success by how much stuff I get done, but by the best stuff for me to work on. And so I would probably rephrase that and just have the question being, what's my highest and best use? What one thing deserves my attention that if I nail that, that would bring me a lot further than the 27 things I could get done to focus much productivity. Productivity is getting the right stuff done in a timely way, the way I look at it. And so it's, we, you know, we're more human doings than we are human beings. And so, you know, it's just, it is doing, but it's just focused on doing the right stuff and don't sweat the other stuff that doesn't need to be done.
Fair enough. And so tell me a little bit. You've got a storied past. You've built a fantastic business. Tell me a little bit more about that and who's an ideal candidate to connect with you. Who are you looking to engage with right now?
Yeah, we're a business growth coaching company, and so we handle. We're like a family doctor. You know, we come into the business and we have expertise in marketing and sales, helping people close more. The process, bringing more quality in, the hiring process, even the tracking system, the KPIs, even the accounting. You know, we're certified in the Profit First system. So we come in and we do it's what I call the casualness audit, because there's three words that I believe is, if people nail this down, it's kind of in the opposite, kind of the negative, but if they nail these things down, they're going to make a lot of money from it. That there's casualness causes casualties. Casualness causes casualties. So we do a casualness audit and we look at the business. Well, what are you doing in a casual way that when you bring it up to a level of excellence, it's going to be a huge difference here? Because it's not uncommon for us to double somebody's sales and within the first 12 months of working with us. And then during that time, we fine tune pricing, packaging, selling, and many times we can triple and even quadruple the profit while we're doubling the sales. And people tend to undervalue the value they create. So we help people grow. We focus primarily on contractors, home builders, plumbers, electricians, any kind of contractors. We have specialty docs, urgent care centers, pain management, chiropractors, healthcare and chiropractors. But I believe that 98% of all businesses are the same. And so we've helped virtually every kind of business you can imagine: manufacturing, retail, online, offline, virtually everything in there. And what we're doing for folks that would like to have this, it's a powerful process. We actually do, when we first meet with a client, we do, if they're open to it, we do a growth plan where we do a strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, kind of a SWOT analysis, but it's a different than what they would normally get. We get where they are now. We do a business model capacity analysis, which is just phenomenal. And then we get a 3-year goal. And then during that time, we identify, through all this discussion, we identify the concrete steps that are going to be needed. We set up a blueprint that's going to be needed to get to that 3-year goal. And then if people want to, they can sign up for the 3-month program where we actually implement that blueprint. But that process, the growth plan, is normally a $2,500 process. But if they'll talk about how much they love TDZ,
The do zone.
The do zone, yeah, TDZ, or they talk about how much they love Josh Thomas, then we'll waive that $2,500 fee. So they just send me an email, tim@redmondgrowth.com, or get a hold of us online and just identify themselves with your podcast here, Josh, and then we'll waive the fee. It's got to be a legitimate business here, but certainly it's a huge, even if you've already got a coach, even if everything's going well, we'll still do it just as a service to your clients. It's a phenomenal experience. People just boom, they see their business in a new light, and it's 100% been empowering. So it's really, really a fun process.
That's awesome. And where can they go to learn more about that?
They can go to our website is redmondgrowth.com. It's REDMOND growth, like where Microsoft is based, Redmond, Washington, but redmondgrowth.com, or they can email me directly and just say, hey, I was on Josh's podcast, and maybe you're smarter than you look, and let me check out that deal. And they can email me, Tim at Redmond Growth, and boom, I'll be glad to handle their questions and get them lined up with a growth plan.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you on here. So one more time, that's redmondgrowth.com, where you can go and learn more about Tim Redmond and what he's doing there with his growth company. And is there any particular, you mentioned that you work with contractors and home services and that sort of thing. Is that kind of your particular niche right now?
Well, it is. It's service companies, especially. We do work with manufacturer. We work with product companies, but we, just probably 80% of our client base now are contractors or people in the healthcare industry, specialty docs, or urgent care centers, that kind of thing. And so we've just gotten huge results. I think about a guy that was trying to retire but didn't have any money. His name is Michael, and he was 67 when he started working with us, and he's done about $100,000 a month, but he wasn't hardly making enough to even pay the bills. Less than $5,000 profit, and no salary. And here, about a year and a half, 2 years into working with us, they bought a condo in Florida. They spent 3 of the 4 weeks a month with him chasing his wife around Florida. They give to their church. They support young men without dads in their community. They got tons of money in their retirement, and they got their business working for them instead of them working for the business. And it's just, those are the kind of stories we want to try to create for our clients. It's been a lot of fun.
I love it. Tim Redmond, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And especially the little trip down memory lane with the 80-20 principle there. I love talking about that stuff.
That's good. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Excellent. So for more information and to connect directly with Tim Redmond, you can go to redmondgrowth.com. We're going to wrap from here. Thanks so much again to our guest for joining us and sharing wisdom on how he gets stuff done. Once again, if you want to keep hearing great content like this, be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple and or Spotify. And don't forget to get your own personal Do Zone DNA by visiting dozonedna.com. Until next time, remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day that we're only going to use 20 minutes of, apparently. What are you going to do with yours?